Here's the question. How do you make the impossible possible? Simple. Remove the I am, the ego. Now, how do you step into that newfound possibility? With a series of small intentional steps. Never forget, the greatest among us started from humble beginnings. But to truly unlock your potential, realize you're here for something greater. If you're yearning for more than just a good life, let's take that small step together to reach greatness. Welcome to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast, where we're talking to those who have gone from mediocrity to motivated, overlooked to overachieving, forgettable to unforgettable. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome back. This is the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast. And this is where we talk about not just the small beginnings, but what is greatness in the moments of our life, in the long term. And we try to help others, each other, and others figure out what greatness might be for them, even in a moment, even in the moment now. That all being said, that's where I like to start. So I want to introduce my son, Billy. As most of you already know, the listeners, I've got a lot of sons. We got 6 sons and a daughter, and Billy is number 3.
Number 3 of 7.
And that's the way we term it around here. Oh, it's number 5, or it's number 7, or 6, or 3.
Whatever number.
Yeah, whatever number. This is number 3. So we happen to be in Florida, family vacation. You're from Alaska. That's where you live. And that, what, 10 years, 11? 10 years.
10 years. We're coming up on 11.
Coming up on 11.
Next month.
Okay. And that's why we have the privilege of sitting here together, is because we're in Florida in warmer weather, right?
Way warmer.
Way warmer, yeah. Like, I don't know, somewhere near 100 degrees or something. Yeah.
Just over 100.
Just over 100 degrees, yeah, warmer. So I'd like to start in this one spot, in almost all of them, and that is asking the question, define greatness for you. If you were talking to somebody who was struggling or whatever, what would you share with them about greatness? So define greatness for you.
It's kind of a difficult one in some respects because it may not be someone else's greatness, but that's the benefit of living on your own and doing your own thing and figuring out what is your life and how you want to live it. I don't have a direct definition for greatness. I don't have a particular set for greatness, but I think growing up and being taught work ethic and or the ability to push beyond uncomfortable, or if something is problematic or difficult, just to go beyond that, not shut down in the hard time, or not turn your brain off, or stop working, or quit climbing the mountain, or you got to sit in 6 hours of traffic because somebody hit a moose. It doesn't really matter what it is. Go beyond whatever it is. If you read the original explorers of Antarctica, the original explorers of Everest, the pioneers who built America, they never just stopped or sat or did much of anything other than go forward. To me, I think greatness would be if you're in uncomfortable, if you're in problem, if you're in life, especially these days, most people average every day, they tend to just not go where difficulty is. They like the convenience, they like simplicity, they like easy things. The easier the life is for them, the quicker and more convenient their life is on the other side.
Are you saying you don't like easy?
Not necessarily, but there's only 2 ways to do things: the easy way and our way.
With Callaway, right? It's the easy way and the Callaway. That does seem to be what we've one of the things in I'll call our family culture.
It's
right?
been captured.
It's
well.
been captured. That's one way to say it. It has been captured for sure. And we tend to do things with vigor, but not always the easy way, not
No.
with tons of forethought and not with extreme amounts of advice. And because can you get advice on the little details?
Actually, yes, there's, for most that don't know, I started business in 2019 and we opened our paving and excavating business in 2020. Growing up in business, watching K&L grow, living through the experience versus
Mm,
having to go to school and learn business and then start a business and figure out the other details. We got to see a lot of the struggles, but the parts that we never saw were the fundamental business side, the important side of intellectual business. We never got to see that or deal with that. So my downfall is really structured, whether you got to write it down or keep track, or really keeping stuff in order so you know what you're doing for the next week or few weeks or month or whatever. I was never good at that. So good example, I would have a situation or come into a problem and call you and try and ask you small, simple questions and get, sometimes it would be just a blunt force answer, figure it out. Or you know what to do. You've already told me everything you need to do, so go and do it. It was just little simple tidbits along the way to get there, which made it easier. But for some people, that general public, some people just need just a little tidbit to keep moving forward or move beyond or whatever it may be. Just that little nugget is all you need.
yeah. And that's the way we can provide levels of greatness to each other, right?
Yeah.
Is to say, you know what, we got this, right?
Yeah.
Or you got
Yeah.
this. I can't save you from it. It's just you got to plow through. I heard today on just a quick video that fear is an inch deep and a mile wide.
Oh.
And yeah, you wade out into fear and you think you're going to sink, and then you think you're going to drown.
Yeah.
And you step out into it because that's what we do, right? As entrepreneurs, business owners,
Yep.
and dads, like we are always in uncharted territory, right? So we step out and we realize actually there's a bottom to this thing, and then we just
Yes.
take the next step, and we realize that yeah, we might get into deep water, but is it actually going to kill us? No, really, it's not.
It's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to hurt, but there's always another side.
Yeah. So describe your business for the listener.
We started with plowing in 2019, just snow plowing. Um, Again, to reiterate, we don't do things in small quantities, and I'm very deep into that. When I decided I wasn't going to give myself a choice, I went full steam ahead for over 3 years on that. Once that was going, we started the paving business because I also didn't give myself an option to go back to a job working for someone else. Slowly morphed the plowing into the paving company, so now it's just one business. Started really small, just doing what we had to do to get noticed. First year was decent, which was okay, just asphalt. And I think it was probably a quarter asphalt and about 3/4 excavating and dirt moving, lot clearing. Alaska's wide open space, so there's a lot of new development. It's not putting in septic pipe and things
Right.
like that. Went to there, and then 2021, I took off because I was offered a business deal that didn't turn out good. I worked at that company, tried to figure it all out. It turned to be not good.
Yeah. So the idea was that you work in the company, and then the original thought was within 3 years you would eventually end up with the company, and then all of a sudden it was accelerated
To
to 1 year, 6 months. Yeah, 6 months because the seasons are 6 months. And then it's like, well, we want this many dollars. They expect you to come up with money, and
It was none of my choice.
yeah, yeah. So that did not work out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We took the 1 year off, the one full year, one season in Alaska. Went back in 2022, hit it pretty hard, very quiet. Uh, Learned a lot in that business deal process to speed things up and or be better organized for Alaska, because we have essentially about 120 days to work, and that's it. That's about our work season for asphalt construction. And
Mhm.
I figured out a lot of stuff in that business deal where I can move forward and run alone on some work and field work and maintenance and these things,
Mhm.
which really helped me in 2022. We stayed small, and I hit pretty hard on some areas that I thought we'd do really good at, which we did. We made a
Mhm.
pretty significant headway that season. Last year, I would quote unquote make it the growth year statement. It was difficult. We did a lot more than we should have, and we still have open work from last season that it's a struggle to get either
Mhm.
finished, completed, whatever the word is. It's difficult, but we're in the middle of starting the business, starting another business, combining it, growing that name, and working beyond our first or second step in business where we're established and functioning well in asphalt, essentially.
Yeah.
80% of it.
Paving, yeah. So describe functioning well for the listeners. What's that mean to you?
Alaska is its own different bear when it comes to things like asphalt or building buildings, or you can do a lot of excavating, but it takes a lot of extra time in the winter.
Hmm.
Having the forethought right now, January is typically when I start looking at what we need to do for the coming season. And I spend from now till May either penciling it down or setting things up or whatever. Even if it falls apart in July, I still spend this time
Which
working
it
on
often
getting
does,
there.
right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But trying to put together the foresight to get to that point, running well would be
Mhm.
having the support that either we create or hire or build, like really build. That's the ultimate answer, to build the business where it'll run without me or Melissa there for a number of days. It
Right.
could be 2, it could be 10 months, who knows?
Yeah.
But in common Callaway fashion, we say that, but we're always going to try and be in there doing something because we don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah. Well, and we want to grow,
Yeah.
right?
We have the tendency to just keep going.
Yeah, I've talked to the family, as you know, about core values and the mindset, the value of greatness.
Yeah.
That means there's possibilities out there.
Yes.
And so we're always working on that. I was laying in bed this morning, 3 a.m., thinking about some business idea. And now 9 out of 10 are bad ideas.
But you
Granted,
got to process
but I
it.
got to process it. Yeah. So I did that for, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour or something like that in my half sleep that I was in, and then finally fell back to sleep and trying to figure it out. But if I don't remember it in the morning, then it probably wasn't a great idea.
It's that small moment between twilight and morning where you can, if nothing, I have the same thing. If I wake up at that time, it's a thought that's not worth thinking again. So again, if I don't remember it, it's not worth my time.
Yeah. So look out 10 years and say, this is what it looks like right now, which is the way I describe it, is a picture with different scenes in it, all kind of penciled in, right? Written in pencil, so you can erase the picture, put a new one in. But what do you see right now? How old are your kids? Like, where are you at in 10 years? Your kids are 5 to 12, right?
Now.
Right now, 4 girls.
So my youngest would be 15, which that I'm not even there yet. That's a lot to process.
That's a lot to process. Okay.
Uh,
And your oldest would be 22. Okay, so that puts you in a whole different zone of life. But where does that put you in regards to business, perhaps?
business. Currently, we're trying to have our kids help us with a lot of things in business. Starting this year, this summer,
Mhm.
it's time for the 2 older ones to know what's going on and understand that treats aren't from the sky, because
Yeah.
they commonly think that they just drop out of nowhere. We just go to the store and get things. Right now, that's what we're working on. So you preface the the picture with that, where we're in the stage of showing them the ethic, the moral, the understanding of why we're doing what we're doing and how we're doing it and all that stuff. 10 years, I believe, quick, a little intro to that would be last year at the TCS conference. My particular word for this previous year, 2023, was uncomfortable, because I knew ahead of time I was going to be very uncomfortable, but I didn't know that I was going to start my uncomfortable and go longer than 2023.
Okay.
So
What's your word for this year?
preface the whole thing, it's still uncomfortable.
Oh, it is.
It
Okay.
is.
You're
I have
2.0.
Yes. It may be a 3.0, but I found that the word uncomfortable and all the little things that we're doing along the way, if I get comfortable, then I'm not doing something right with business, because I tend to get to a point and say, okay, that's good. I just want to stop there. But I pick up my shovel again a few weeks later and I go back to the same thing where it's not enough anymore. Or I get into that tendency where I need to do something more or something different, or there's always something more.
Yeah.
So this year, in 10 years, I would particularly like to be uncomfortable in business, where we're either still pushing a little bit, or trying to achieve something, or trying to move beyond whatever step we're on, whether that's stepping away from the business a little more, selling the business, whatever that is. In 10 years, I'd like to be uncomfortable in that moment to push beyond it to the next point. I believe that the word uncomfortable in the last year has helped me quite a bit, because I'm okay with being uncomfortable, but in business, seems to be, might as well just tattoo it on your arm.
Yeah.
It's an important thing.
Yeah. Uncomfortable is part of the gig.
Yeah. So with my kids learning business at a young age, with our finances, we just bought a house this year, or last year, 2023, in the middle of the busiest part of our summer.
Yeah.
Which,
Well, you had a house, but then
we bought another one.
You bought a different one, bigger, better,
much larger.
Yeah.
More accommodating for business and kids and the whole package. In all of that being the hardest moment, I hope every year in the next 10 years is like that, where it's difficult in growth over the next 10 years, whether it's with kids or church and God, or trying to figure out where vehicles come from. Heaven forbid something happens, we can't drive from our house to get gas or milk or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'd like to be in that uncomfortable stage. I don't think that I can really put a big picture on 10 years from now. Because Alaska's a special place, and we could get an offer, a ridiculous offer for our business tomorrow. We don't know.
Yeah.
Alaska is so diverse in many things, and if you do things right, you can move along pretty well, pretty quick. So if I made a picture for 10 years, it wouldn't look anything the same.
Yeah, it'd probably be very different. That's true. Yeah, I look out 10 years and I see certain things, but I think mostly it's just dreams and ideas.
Right. And in our dreaming, me personally, I want to be pulling away from this business just a little bit. So I'm not trying to control what's happening. And I would prefer Melissa, my wife, be not all the way out, but back far enough where she can relax some while business runs. We're both going to have our hands in it regardless, but having that good quote, you're trading your time for money.
Right.
Once you start business, you're trying to make the money, and as you grow, you're trading your time, or you're buying your time back.
Yeah.
I want to buy our time back before we get to 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I hope you learn that lesson better than I have. And it's been over 40. And I still am in relatively full time.
Yeah.
And yet there's some good reasons why in the last few years, there were certain hires that didn't work. And well, when that happens in any business, well, guess who goes back to work?
By default.
By default. Yeah. I own it. I'm responsible.
Yeah.
So I go do the thing. Whether I'm best at it or not, it doesn't really matter. I go do the thing.
You got to do it.
Yep. So that 10-year goal, the 10-year, all of that, it kind of seems to fit with that greatness thing. How does, you mentioned it already, how does faith play in for you? And let's just add in the piece of physical fitness. I know you've been doing more of that lately. How do those fit together in your life?
I think a number of years ago, Melissa and I had some marital issues, and why would it not be all my fault? Because it was all my fault. It took me a long time to get back into fitness, period, because I found a point where it was just boring. You just pick heavy stuff up and you put heavy stuff down. I'm not a runner like my brothers and my dad. I'm not. I'll run for my life. But my running is short distances for a reason, and I don't enjoy it. Number of years ago, marital issues, and I learned in that I started back at the basics. I started with church and understanding who God is and what God is, because there was a moment in there where I went from one kid leaving Oregon, still young, not completely new married, but new to a marriage, about 2, 3 years in, almost 4 years in, I think. No, it was 2.5 years.
Yep.
Roughly 2.5 years. Learning marriage still and understanding things. And I thought that moving to Alaska, I needed to make a name for myself. Subconsciously, I decided this, and I went on that path pretty hard for no reason, because you don't need to. Found myself in a hole, and coming out of that, I went back to the basics of church and understanding that God really does talk to you or communicates to you in a different way, and being gifted in, maybe not gifted in books or gifted in great looks. We were gifted in work ethic and taking care of things, and really teaching, me especially, teaching and learning. Those two things that I particularly enjoy a lot for no reason. In that, relearning the Bible, relearning God and Jesus, because literally when you ignore God, you ignore God. You don't listen. I was going into a deep hole in that because I wasn't listening. And when you do that, you don't care. So relearning that in 2018 and going into 2019, that was the last year I worked for a different company in the union doing roads in Alaska. I struggled a lot with trying to be the person I needed to be and getting stuck in my old traps. I didn't, but it was there every day.
Yeah.
And I maybe subconsciously, I understood that I can't work in those environments anymore unless I can help control the environment anymore. So I gave myself no choice but to go into something that was okay for me.
Yeah, that you could kind of, for lack of a better term, use control.
Control the environment a little more.
Yeah.
And part of that was being gone out of town. I would drink, or I would enjoy myself, or I just do whatever I wanted to do. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just getting stuck in my own head and not allowing anything or anyone to tell me any different.
Is that selfishness, self-absorbed? Is that like an ego? Which
I think more just being selfish in moving and trying to be the macho Alaskan dude for a little bit and getting that stuck in my head. I was being selfish. That's kind of what it was. And then moving into 2020, that was a hard slap to the face that I really needed, because it wasn't any more of, now you're working for somebody, you're a superintendent, you're making okay money, things are okay. The things of the world, that's what that was. And I was good with that. I was building myself up with material. 2020, it was more of a learn the business, learn how to love your wife, learn how to do work together, learn because we are together all the time now. We can't separate what we're doing for each other anymore.
Mm.
I personally enjoy it, even though it's agonizing for both of us sometimes, because working in asphalt or construction in a good marriage is not very common.
Yeah. And when you only have 120 days in a year, is that what you said?
Average, yeah.
Yeah. We base our year on 200 and always get 215, 220. And so it's kind of easier because you got a longer runway.
Yep.
So a lot of these days are really long. There are days when you sleep in the same bed and that's about it.
For a I would say a decent period of time in the summer, that's what it is. We care for each other. We work on everything together. If I'm working on equipment till 1 in the morning,
Mhm.
I still wake up at 5 to go to the gym in the morning.
Mhm.
The routine is set, but if we in the summertime as well, now that we own our own business, we lack going to church. But one staple we do have together is if she says we're going to church or I say we're going to church, we're going to church.
Okay.
We
Because there is a lot of those 120 days is Sundays also.
For me, yes.
Yeah.
And this early in business, yes. There's been a lot of especially the TCS group, a lot of not encouragement, but figuring out that you don't need to work 7 days a week the entire 6 months or work every day of the year for the whole time, because work will always be there. And same with life, it's always going to be there, but life is more important than work.
Yeah.
Understanding that, especially in such a short season where I no longer will work through fishing season or work all the way through hunting season without allowing ourselves to go do it.
Take a moment. Yeah.
Or if there's a phone call from home and I need to go home, I'm going home. I don't give myself the option to say, it's not that important. Now from 2018 to now, it's changed a lot in those respects. There's still a lot to work on.
Of course.
Of course. Human.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the idea of going from selfish Billy that was self-indulged to really paying attention to God and listening to the Holy Spirit and understanding what's going on with your kids and trying to rear them and bring them up so they don't depart, and or trying to keep your marriage intact and really love what's going on. I'm in that stage right now. I really enjoy what's going on. During the summertime, if somebody stood there and listened, we probably sound like we're nagging each other, but we're working through our problems for work. And when work's done at 10 or 11 at night, we're married. We typically eat dinner together late.
Yeah.
Kids go to bed about 7 or 8. So
Yeah.
work goes until maybe 9:30, 10, sometimes 11 at night. And then we go to bed.
Yeah.
Married, not business.
So are you
partners.
saying it's right? Okay. So are you saying it's okay to compartmentalize? For you guys, you need to compartmentalize. It's work for a while.
Yeah.
It's conflict, it's tension, it's whatever. Not always, but sometimes it is. But then when that's done, then you
That's
put it
fine.
away.
For me, yes. And that's one of my downfalls, because for you, what I saw growing up was you came home and work stopped. I didn't know any better. We know that work didn't stop, but my visual was when dad got home, it was our time to have dad.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, running our own business, I'm very quick to turn it off, and she hates it so much because I can walk in the door and everything from today is gone.
Yeah, leave it outside.
It all gets
Yeah.
hung up on the tree outside. I don't worry about it. So I've been working on communicating and trying to be better at doing that. I'm not great.
Yeah.
I'm probably D minus.
Yeah, because she's involved in the business. She does want to know.
She needs to know what I'm doing. And I didn't understand how important that was till recently, because I thought, you got my location, you know what we're doing. This is what we're doing. We're not going 20 miles away to do anything else or have burgers or anything. This is what we're doing. But hearing it from me and how our day was, she needs to know that what was going on from my mouth.
Yeah.
Fitness fits into that. In the last year, I'm at a year and almost a year and a month after the TCS conference. That was for us financially expensive at the moment, but very eye-opening, because it's in business, most people shut themselves in a hole and think that they're alone.
They're alone. Yeah.
You're not. All you got to do is say something to the right person, and hundreds of people will show up and help.
Mhm.
I didn't particularly talk to anyone at the show or really get into deep conversations, but just
Yeah.
knowing how different people are processing their problems or issues or whatever it is, it's eye-opening. You don't have to hear the whole story. You just hear, yeah, you're fine to push to the next, go to the next
Yeah.
thing. You're
Yeah.
fine.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And part of my issue with not being selfish, and I'm sure it's having older brothers that beat my head in when we were young. I have a very condensed anger issue that I didn't know I had. But going to the gym in the summertime, I leave the house at 5. I start my workout at 5:30 at the CrossFit gym. It's done at 6:30. That adjusts my attitude for the day. I can go home and blow up all my equipment and it would be okay.
Hmm.
My anger would be okay. I wouldn't be mad. I would figure out this is the problem, get to the solution. Previous days, previous months, previous years, it really would have ticked me off, and I probably would have said some 4 and 5 letter words to the wrong person for a long time and
Yeah.
not been forgiven, and or maybe lost a relationship or two, who knows. But the adjustment in attitude for exercise and understanding, we live in the shade now. We moved into the shade in the wintertime, so we don't get sunshine 12 months of the year. Even
Oh, because now you're in a valley.
yes,
Okay.
sun sets in October, late October, and we don't see it at our house until March.
Oh.
That's the new part to this whole thing. But exercise has adjusted. One, anger. Two, it's a full reset for my day. I know my day can't get any worse, because at the CrossFit gym, you show up perfectly fine. And by the time the hour is done, you're wrecked. You can't, it hurts to
You torture yourself, basically.
pick up a water bottle and it's heavy. I really like that pain. I like that the coach yells at me when I'm taking a breath. It doesn't make me feel dumb or stupid, but having someone push me to another spot that I don't want to be in, it adds to the uncomfortable, and it's a full adjustment. It's good. It does me a lot of work, a lot of really good stuff. Whether it's wintertime right now where we can relax, or summertime where some days are miserable and the next day you're going to have that workout or that adjustment, or you can let off steam. So if I'm tired or bored or stressed or angry or whatever my feeling is, I know that I can go the next day and have it again.
Gonna blow it out a little bit.
Suffice it to say, runner's high, addiction, whatever that spot is, once you're hooked, you're hooked. If it's running that people enjoy, then they're going to get addicted to running. If they're going to lift weights and be really good at weights, you can call it a million different things. But to me, I got to have something to grab onto for myself. If anybody told me you can't go to the gym anymore, I'd probably knee him in the face. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. So you have the gym, you have your wife, and the business could come or go. It sounds like you have the kids.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah. So your biggest why is what?
My biggest why is because I care and I am a provider. Whether it be here with nieces, whether it be me grumpy before coffee in the morning, it doesn't matter. If somebody needs some care, or if somebody needs help, or whatever it is, I like learning, I enjoy teaching, and I really love caring. Do I care about work and all that stuff? To a point, but
Yeah.
providing and caring for family, especially, and or people in need, that is something that I've another fact, I've distorted business into if it doesn't serve a purpose, then don't do it.
Hmm.
Plowing wasn't serving a purpose, it was just paying bills. Paying bills is okay, but then you're just getting stuck in the trap of the cycle. You pay bills, then you go back to this other thing and pay bills. We weren't giving money to help. We weren't providing any better service. It was just something.
Yeah.
So in the wrap of the last couple of years, from last January to now, especially with the TCS program, the ability to understand that doing things on purpose, for purpose, is more fundamental than just doing something to do it. So a lot of my process lately has been whatever we do in business needs to have a purpose. And if we're just laying asphalt, that's okay, but we need to figure out if it's serving a purpose for business and families. I have 3 employees at the moment. If it's not serving their families for a purpose, or if it's not serving community, or if it's not serving the greater good for other people or community, then I don't necessarily want to do it. Because my purpose is to serve for purpose.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
Pretty decent way to say it right now.
Good. I love it. So one thing I like finishing with is, so you crawl through this microphone, down this wire, you're sitting with somebody in their car while they're listening. One of the listeners out here, or you're walking down a pathway, they have their earbuds in, and you're going to disappear in 30 seconds to a minute. Sum up everything we said, encourage them in some way. What's that last thing you leave them with?
I kind of had this similar talk with one of my friends just recently at Wednesday night. There's youth group, women's group, men's group, all at our church. So we all go as a family. He's worked at this company for, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years, working through his apprenticeship for an electrician, journeyman's certificate. He's found out some things in the business that he doesn't agree with. He won't tell me. It's not my business. I don't care that much. But listening to him over the last probably 4 or 5 months say there's some difficulties in the business, and it gets a little bit weird for me. I don't want to quit because I'm making better money here than I did at Target as a manager in a manager position. I also don't want to work for this company, and I also don't feel like I can provide, because every time we need to do something, we don't have enough money. Just listening to him tell me all this stuff, I was hearing the point of, you're walking through it. Maybe you should keep going until you get to the other side. That's a very general statement, but that's, in my head, that's what made the most sense to tell him. So I told him, to me, it sounds like you're being put in a position where you need to walk through it, because you came over this huge step moving from the East Coast into Alaska alone. Now you have a son and a wife and 2 adopted kids.
Oh, wow.
In your family. So you've just cleared this massive hurdle for all of your family to live together and be happy. You're providing for all of them. Now maybe you're being put in a position where you have to walk through this very uncomfortable, possibly difficult, maybe something that you really don't agree with ethically, but you should probably walk a little bit through that to figure out if this is what you were destined to do, essentially. If somebody was running down the path listening, in all generalities, I'd tell them about the same thing. If you're going through something hard, maybe you should keep going just a little bit further. I did.
Yeah. You heard the analogy of 3 feet from gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where the guy is like, he's chipped away his whole
All the
life
time.
and he quit, and somebody else came in and got it.
3 foot away.
3 foot away. Well, we might be right there.
Yep.
That's great. So that is an excellent place to finish up. And that is Billy giving you the pathway to greatness. And it might mean doing hard for a little bit longer. It might mean staying uncomfortable for a little bit longer. So with that said, today, your call to action is go be great.